First, let's start with this case. I, 41 female, have always been close with my brother, Tom, 38 male, and we've had a great relationship. When he got engaged to his fiancée, Sarah, 38 female, I was honored to be asked to be a bridesmaid. They've been planning a large wedding for over a year, and I've been heavily involved in helping organize the event. I even offered to contribute financially since Tom and Sarah were on a tight budget. A few months ago, my partner proposed to me. While we already have a long-standing, marriage-like relationship, this made it official. To keep the focus on Tom and Sarah's wedding, we kept our engagement low-key. However, after we announced the news, Sarah began acting distant toward me. Tom later explained that Sarah felt I had stolen her spotlight by getting engaged before their wedding. About a week later, Tom and Sarah called me to say that, due to the timing of my engagement, it would be best if I stepped down as a bridesmaid. Sarah felt my engagement was too distracting and wanted the focus to remain on her. Although I was deeply hurt, I agreed to step down to maintain peace within the family. Things took a turn recently when Tom asked if I was still willing to contribute financially to the wedding costs I had initially offered to cover, a significant amount. I was taken aback and politely declined, explaining that I no longer felt comfortable contributing after being removed from the bridal party. I added that the situation had hurt me deeply. Tom became upset and accused me of being selfish, claiming I was ruining his big day. Sarah went as far as to accuse me of holding a grudge and trying to punish them. Now, the family is divided. Some think I should still help since I initially made the offer, while others agree it's unreasonable to expect me to contribute after being excluded from the bridal party. Am I the one in the wrong here for refusing to cover their wedding expenses after being asked to step down as a bridesmaid? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. Why would you announcing your engagement have any influence on their wedding? Does everyone have to pause their life until the highly exalted Sarah gets married? You have no obligations to pay for anything for your brother, other than what you yourself want. Them expecting money after treating you like this for no valid reason is absurd. You're not in the wrong. You don't need to put your entire life on hold because someone else's wedding is a couple of months away. You weren't stealing her spotlight, and she was being petty. Your family doesn't get a vote on how you spend your money, period. And Sarah needs to figure out that behavior, especially nasty, self-centered, crazy-ass behavior, has consequences. What, during the year of wedding planning, no one in the wedding party is allowed to get engaged? Or, God forbid, pregnant? Or how about married? They'd be wearing a different ring to Sarah's big day. How distracting. Sarah and Tom have, how do I put this nicely, kind of lost their minds over what's important in life and the precedence of their wedding over everything else in everyone else's lives. They've treated you terribly with respect to the wedding, and now they think you should subsidize them? No thank you. You're not in the wrong. Next up, here's the revised version. I, 38 female, am married to my husband, 50 male, who shares custody of his 2 children, 16 female and 12 male, with his ex-wife, 48 female. His ex-wife is now remarried to her wife, 48 female, who has become very involved in their co-parenting arrangement. My husband and his ex-wife divorced 8 years ago after she left him for her current wife. I met my husband 6 years ago, and we got married earlier this year. From the beginning, I made an effort to be polite and respectful when interacting with his ex-wife and her wife. However, over time, I found it harder to engage, especially with his ex-wife's wife, who often makes dismissive or passive-aggressive remarks. For example, she's made comments like, "I'm surprised you're here. With you, it's always hit or miss." Or, "We're too old for what you do." She's also criticized my role with the kids, saying things like, "You can always ask me questions since I know how to parent them better." These remarks don't just come from her directly. The kids have repeated things she's said, such as, "Stepmom says you don't really understand kids because you don't have any." Or, "Mom and stepmom said you're only involved because dad needs help." It's incredibly frustrating because I've worked hard to build a positive relationship with the kids while respecting their boundaries. For my own well-being, I've decided to stop engaging with her. I still communicate with my husband's ex-wife when necessary, but I no longer involve myself with her wife. This hasn't gone over well. They're now accusing me of being inappropriate and difficult for refusing to communicate directly with her. They claim her involvement is necessary and that I'm not prioritizing the kids' best interests. The truth is, I'm not refusing to co-parent. I'm refusing to subject myself to someone who consistently disrespects me and undermines my role in the kids' lives. My husband fully supports my decision, but I still question whether I'm doing the right thing for the kids by setting this boundary. Adding to the stress, I'm currently pregnant, and the conflict has taken a toll on me. The ex-wife already creates regular tension by interfering with our custodial time and criticizing my husband through their co-parenting communication app. Am I wrong for refusing to communicate with my husband's ex-wife's wife? Am I being unreasonable? Or is this a necessary step to maintain my sanity and protect my mental health? Let's start judging. There's literally no reason you have to be talking to either of these women. They aren't your children, and they aren't your responsibility. And if the person who is responsible for them won't manage those relationships, it's not your burden to take on. You're not in the wrong, and pass the reins over to your husband. I've driven stepdaughter back and forth occasionally and still not interacted with mom via text or phone once. All of it is through my husband. Probably why I like her fine enough. You're not in the wrong. Let your husband be the point of contact with them. They're only pissed off because they've enjoyed trying to belittle you and you've cut them off. Also sounds like jealousy with you being a lot younger. If in future you unfortunately have an interaction with them and they're mean, call them out and say, "You've heard menopausal symptoms can be hard. And thank God I don't need to deal with that for a long time." You're not in the wrong. Sounds wise to go low, no contact with them. They aren't co-parenting, they are bullying. Also consider getting a mediated parenting plan that is legally tied up properly, and a parenting communication app, so everyone communicates through the court-ordered app and it notes tone and insults. We'll sort a lot of the nonsense out. While you are at it, get the kids into some kind of therapy, and warn the therapist that the ex-ex's wife are warming up alienation, and you want a good relationship with your stepkids, and can the therapist help facilitate this? Next up, my husband suggested we host Thanksgiving this year. We usually don't host because our apartment is small and there's no guest parking, but he was really excited about the idea. Hosting used to be fun when we lived in a bigger place, so I agreed. Most of our guests are friends, and everyone offered to bring a dish. One of his friends, let's call her Chelsea, volunteered to make the turkey. On Thanksgiving Day, another friend asked if she could bring her cat. I said no to pets because our apartment is small and it's a dinner gathering, not ideal for animals or guests. My husband suggested we also let Chelsea know about the no pet rule, since she's known for bringing her dog everywhere. I agreed, though I was a bit hesitant because Chelsea can be particular about this. If she's not allowed to bring her dog, she usually arranges a sitter, but not without some resistance. She's caused tension at past events when pets weren't allowed. I asked my husband to text Chelsea to check if she was planning to bring her dog. Since he's not very comfortable with confrontations, I offered to handle it myself if needed. He texted her, and Chelsea called back. My husband put her on speakerphone, and it was clear she was upset from her tone. Chelsea insisted she always brings her dog everywhere. I pointed out that wasn't entirely true since we've been to events where she didn't bring her dog, which is accurate. She then asked why we hadn't mentioned the no pet rule earlier. I explained that I didn't think it was necessary since bringing pets to a dinner party without asking isn't typical, especially when the hosts don't have pets themselves. At this point, she became more upset and said, "Well, I guess you'll have Thanksgiving without a turkey then." It felt like she was trying to pressure me into allowing her dog by implying she wouldn't come or bring the turkey otherwise. I don't like being pressured in my own home, so I calmly responded that I was sorry she felt that way. She interrupted, saying, "No, I feel sorry for you since you won't have a turkey," and hung up. Now I'm second-guessing myself. Was I wrong for saying no to her dog? I feel like I set a reasonable boundary, but her reaction has made me question if I handled it poorly. Am I the one at fault here? Let's start judging. When hosting, you never depend on your guests to bring the main entree. If you can't cook, you always find a restaurant that cooks dinner for holiday for price. The key is always buy more. You're not in the wrong. But what is with your friends? One of them wanted to bring their cat? They seriously wanted to wrangle their cat into a carrier and transport it to a strange environment for a single afternoon evening? Chelsea's dog really can't be alone for a few hours? Has everyone gone insane? You're not in the wrong. You set a boundary about your own home. Dog owners who assume their dogs are welcome everywhere are assholes, no matter how many people or businesses accommodate them. Dogs were commonly left at home for centuries and did just fine. There's absolutely no reason dogs can't be left at home for the length of a social event these days. And if this happens to not be true about some individual dog, it's still not everyone else's obligation to accept that dog in any and every space. Next up, my 32 female mother, 60 female, hosts Thanksgiving dinner every year. It's usually a small gathering with my parents, me, my brother's family, and my sister-in-law's family. To avoid conflicts, we follow a strict no politics rule and try to keep things civil. We aren't a particularly close-knit family, as my brother lives in South Africa and I travel often for work. Thanksgiving is important to my mom since it's one of the rare occasions when we're all together. The issue I have with my mom is her habit of critiquing me, often in passive-aggressive ways. She makes comments about my career, my decision not to have children, and even the way I dress. I've brought this up with her several times, but she doesn't seem to realize how hurtful it is. My father brushes it off, saying it's just her way of showing she cares. It stings, especially because my brother is never subjected to the same treatment. To add context, I've been dealing with depression and made some poor choices a few months ago, which I know have affected her opinion of me. While I take responsibility for my actions, her criticism still hurts. By the time we finished dinner this Thanksgiving, I was already feeling on edge due to some of her remarks. Dessert was my responsibility this year, and I decided to make a maple cheesecake. No one specified what I should bake, and I thought it would be a nice change since I dislike pumpkin pie. It literally makes me gag. I worked hard on the cheesecake and felt proud of how it turned out. When I brought out the dessert, my mom looked at it skeptically and announced that she had made the usual pumpkin pie as well. This surprised me since she hadn't mentioned it beforehand. When I asked why, she said something like, "Well, we figured you'd do your own thing, so I thought it was best to have a backup." She then proceeded to serve the pie to everyone and told me to leave the cheesecake in the kitchen. When someone asked to try my cheesecake, she said, "Let's not mix too many flavors at once," which felt dismissive and passive-aggressive. I know it's silly for an adult to get upset over something like this, but I felt completely invalidated. I politely declined the slice of pie she offered me, got my coat, and left. As I was leaving, I could hear people calling after me, but I was already crying and couldn't face having an emotional outburst in front of everyone. Later, my mom texted me saying it was incredibly rude and immature of me to leave like that, especially on Thanksgiving. My brother also messaged saying I was acting irrationally. I feel awful for leaving so abruptly, especially since my parents are getting older and we're already not very close. But something about my mom's behavior always seems to turn me into a neurotic teenager, and I hate it. Was I wrong for leaving, or is there more to unpack here? Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. If your mother's way of fussing and expressing that she cares, looks, sounds, and feels like she's being a deliberately nasty person, then I'm guessing she is really just being a deliberately nasty person. Walks like a duck and all that. I'd tell your father this. Your mother premeditated the whole dessert thing, right down to the kick in the teeth of excluding the dessert you made from the table. She got off on being cruel in this petty way for whatever warped reason. This kind of thing is no accident, and not care in any way. Golden Boy brother can't see it, because he is never the target. Dad is trying to see it through the best possible lens. Your mother won't admit to herself what she is really doing, even as she deliberately does it. Their blindness doesn't mean she isn't doing it. You're not in the wrong. Your mom is the worst, like seriously the worst. God forbid anyone eat and then compliment your cheesecake. You were not crying for some reason. You were crying for valid reasons. You were not behaving irrationally. You were reacting with perfect rationality given your circumstances. Maybe take off the rest of the holidays and give yourself some grace, or spend them with a friend or family member that doesn't treat you like an inconvenience. From one black sheep to another, you deserve way better. Couple things here. You didn't mess up your life. Depression did. Don't blame yourself for things out of your control. If your mother's opinion of you is affected negatively by depression, instead of her trying to help you through it, then your mom sucks. Telling you that you are in charge of dessert, then having a backup dessert is cruel. If she wanted pie, she should have said, "Please bring pie," or "Please bring a dessert. I will also have pie." She set you up to fail and then acted like a child by hiding your dessert and not even letting people try it. Strike 2 against your mom. Texting and telling you that you were rude and not even acknowledging her behavior is so narcissistic. If this was your best friend telling you that it was her mom doing this to her, what would your advice be? Mine would be to write a letter to your mother with details and dates to back it up. Let her know you need space and sign it. I hope you can reflect. Signed, your daughter. Please take care of your mental health, because your mother doesn't have your best interest at heart.